The perfect illusion. Olivia Mercer pressed her palm against the gentle swell of her stomach, smiling as she felt the first fluttering movements of her baby. At 4 months pregnant, she was finally past the morning sickness phase and beginning to enjoy the journey toward motherhood. The nursery in their luxury penthouse was already being prepared, a soft mint green that she and her husband Thomas had agreed would be perfect, regardless of whether they had a boy or girl. "Feeling the little gymnast again?" Rebecca Parker asked, setting down a tray of herbal tea on the glass coffee table. Rebecca had been Olivia's best friend since college, their bond surviving distance, career changes, and now standing strong as Olivia embarked on motherhood. "Yes, it's like butterfly wings," Olivia replied, accepting the steaming mug gratefully. "Thomas thinks I'm imagining it, says it's too early, but I know what I feel." Rebecca rolled her eyes dramatically. "Men, what do they know about growing? Humans? Speaking of your brilliant but clueless husband, is he working late again tonight?" Thomas Blackwood, founder and CEO of Horizon Technologies, had built his company from a struggling startup to a tech industry powerhouse in just 8 years. Olivia had been there from the beginning, supporting him through the sleepless nights and financial uncertainties before success came knocking. Their marriage had weathered the storm of his ascent to power, and now, with a baby on the way, Olivia felt they were finally reaping the rewards of those difficult early years. "Another investor's dinner?" Olivia confirmed. "But he promised to be home by 10. He's been making more effort since the pregnancy announcement." Rebecca nodded approvingly. "Good. He should. You deserve nothing less than his complete attention. Right now." She reached over and squeezed Olivia's hand. "And remember, I'm here for anything you need. Doctor's appointments, midnight ice cream runs, shoulder to cry on when hormones hit. That's what godmothers are for, right?" The title had been bestowed upon Rebecca the day after Olivia's positive pregnancy test. No one else had even been considered for the role. Later that evening, after Rebecca had left, Olivia wandered through their spacious apartment, fingers trailing along the marble countertops of their kitchen. The place felt emptier when Thomas wasn't home, despite the expensive furniture and carefully curated art pieces that filled every room. Success had brought them material comfort beyond what either had imagined possible, but it had also created a distance between them that Olivia couldn't quite name. Her phone chimed with a message from Thomas. "Meeting running long. Don't wait. Up." Disappointment settled in her chest, but she pushed it away. This was temporary, she reminded herself. Once the baby came, Thomas would scale back his work hours. He had promised. The next morning, Olivia woke to find Thomas's side of the bed untouched. She frowned at the pristine pillows before reaching for her phone. No messages. Unusual, even for Thomas's standards. Concern prompted her to call his assistant, Diane. "Mrs. Blackwood, good morning," Diane answered cheerfully. "Thomas isn't in yet. I assumed he was still at home with you." "He didn't come home last night," Olivia said, worry creeping into her voice. "The investor meeting must have run very late." There was a pause on the line. "Investor meeting?" There wasn't anything on his calendar last night except his regular squash game with the board members. Olivia felt a cold wave wash over her. "Oh, I must have misunderstood," she said quickly. "Thank you, Diane." She hung up, staring at her reflection in the bedroom mirror. Thomas had lied about his whereabouts. It wasn't the first time, but something about this instance felt different, more deliberate, more concerning. Her phone rang again. Rebecca. "Brunch?" her friend asked brightly. "I have the most amazing news I've been dying to tell you," Olivia agreed, pushing away the nagging worry about Thomas. Whatever was happening, Rebecca would help her make sense of it. Rebecca always knew exactly what to say to make things better. What Olivia didn't realize was that this was the last normal day of her life, the final hours of blissful ignorance before everything she believed about her marriage, her friendship, and her future would be irrevocably changed. Shattered trust. Olivia arrived at Bellini's, their favorite brunch spot, 15 minutes early. The familiar scent of freshly baked pastries and gourmet coffee normally brought comfort, but today her stomach churned with unease. Thomas still hadn't responded to her messages, and his unexplained absence gnawed at her thoughts. She chose their usual corner table, ordered a decaf latte, and tried Rebecca's phone again, straight to voicemail. Unusual for Rebecca, who practically lived with her phone in hand due to her job as a high-profile public relations consultant. "Mrs. Blackwood?" A server approached with an envelope. "Your husband called and asked us to give you this when you arrived." Olivia's fingers trembled as she accepted the cream-colored envelope bearing Thomas's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a note and a key card to the Archer Hotel, one of the most exclusive establishments in the city. "Olivia, I've been called away on urgent business. Needed personal space to think. I've arranged a spa day for you at the Archer to make up for my absence. Love, Thomas." The explanation felt hollow, but the gesture was typical Thomas, solving problems by throwing money at them. Still, the keycard nagged at her. The Archer was barely 20 minutes from their penthouse. Why would he need a room there? Rebecca arrived 40 minutes late, her normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. "I'm so sorry. Traffic was a nightmare," she explained, sliding into the booth. "Have you ordered yet?" Olivia studied her friend's flushed cheeks and bright eyes. "Just drinks. Everything okay? You look different." Rebecca laughed, a high, nervous sound. "Different good, I hope. Actually, that's what I wanted to tell you. I've met someone. It's new, but intense." She twisted a strand of hair around her finger, a girlish gesture Olivia hadn't seen from her in years. "That's wonderful," Olivia said, trying to match Rebecca's enthusiasm. "Anyone I know?" Rebecca's smile faltered for a microsecond. "No, he's in finance. Very private person." She quickly changed the subject. "How are you feeling? How's the little bean?" Throughout brunch, Olivia noticed subtle changes in her friend's behavior, checking her phone under the table, avoiding specific questions about her mystery man, and steering the conversation away from Thomas. When Rebecca excused herself to take a call, Olivia glimpsed a flash of a luxury watch on her wrist, a brand-new Cartier that certainly hadn't been there last week. "Beautiful watch," Olivia commented when Rebecca returned. Rebecca's hand instinctively covered the timepiece. "Just a little gift to myself. Business has been good." After brunch, instead of heading home, Olivia found herself driving toward the Archer Hotel, the key card burning a hole in her purse. She told herself she was being paranoid, that pregnancy hormones were making her irrational. Yet something felt wrong. The hotel staff greeted her warmly when she presented the card. "Mrs. Blackwood, wonderful to see you again. Will you be joining Mr. Blackwood upstairs?" Again. Olivia managed a smile. "Yes, thank you." The elevator carried her to the top floor, the presidential suite. Outside the door, she hesitated. What? If Thomas really was just working? What if he had legitimate reasons for needing space? From inside came the unmistakable sound of laughter. Rebecca's laughter. Olivia froze, her hand suspended in mid-air. "We can't keep doing this," she heard Rebecca say, her voice playful. "She's going to figure it out eventually." "Olivia?" Thomas's deep voice replied. "She doesn't suspect a thing. She's too wrapped up in baby books and nursery colors." Olivia's world narrowed to a pinpoint of focus. She inserted the key card with steady hands, pushed the door open silently, and stepped into her worst nightmare. Thomas and Rebecca were tangled together on the suite's massive bed, champagne glasses on the nightstand beside them. Rebecca wore nothing but the Cartier watch. Thomas's wedding ring sat discarded on the bathroom counter. For 5 excruciating seconds, no one moved. Then Rebecca scrambled for the sheet, her eyes wide with horror. Olivia, this isn't— Don't, Olivia said, her voice unnaturally calm. Don't insult me by lying now. Thomas stood, grabbing his discarded pants. Olivia, you need to calm down. Think of the baby. We can discuss this rationally. A hollow laugh escaped her. Rationally? You want to have a rational discussion about sleeping with my best friend? About lying to my face for— How long has this been happening? Rebecca and Thomas exchanged glances, and in that silent communication, Olivia saw the answer. This wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time mistake. How long? She demanded again. 8 months, Rebecca whispered, tears streaming down her face. I never meant to hurt you. 8 months, before the pregnancy. Possibly before they'd even started, trying for a baby. Olivia, Thomas stepped toward her, his CEO voice activated, the one he used to calm nervous investors. We need to think practically here. You're carrying my child. We have appearances to maintain. The company's public image. Your company, she interrupted. That's what you're worried about? Your precious public image? Something in Thomas's expression hardened. Our lifestyle doesn't maintain itself, Olivia. Everything I've built could be jeopardized if you make a scene. Think about what's at stake. The silent strategist. For 3 days, Olivia said nothing about what she had witnessed. When Thomas finally returned home, his explanation was practiced: a business emergency, stress, a momentary lapse in judgment. He never mentioned Rebecca's name, as if her best friend's involvement was merely an unfortunate detail rather than a second betrayal. I want to make this work, Thomas said, his handsome face arranged in an expression of contrition. For our family. For the baby. Olivia nodded, feigning consideration. I need time, she told him, her voice deliberately fragile. This is a lot to process. Relief flooded his features. Thomas had expected hysterics, demands, threats of divorce. Her apparent willingness to consider reconciliation made him careless. He began leaving his phone unlocked, his laptop open. In his mind, the crisis had been managed, like so many business problems before it. Rebecca's approach was different. A flood of tearful voicemails, dozens of apologetic texts, even flowers delivered with a card begging for forgiveness. Olivia responded with a single, carefully crafted message. I'm not ready to talk, but I'm not making any permanent decisions yet. Please respect my space. It was exactly what both betrayers wanted to hear. In the privacy of the guest bedroom where she now slept, Olivia began building her case. First, she contacted an old college acquaintance, Julian Winters, now a successful corporate attorney with a reputation for handling high-profile divorces. I need this handled quietly, she told him during their meeting at a cafe across town. No one can know I'm preparing for this, especially not Thomas. Julian studied her with thoughtful gray eyes. They hadn't been close in college, but he'd always respected her intelligence. Divorcing a CEO of his caliber won't be simple, he warned. His legal team will be aggressive. They'll try to minimize your settlement. I'm not just looking for a settlement, Olivia replied, sliding a USB drive across the table. I've found some concerning irregularities in Horizon's financial reports. Thomas has been hiding things from his shareholders and from me. Julian's eyebrows rose as he pocketed the drive. How did you get access to these? I was the company's first accountant before we could afford to hire professionals, she explained. Thomas never changed the administrator passwords. He always said numbers bored him. That's why he needed me in the early days. What Thomas had forgotten was that Olivia had graduated top of her class in finance before putting her career on hold to support his dreams. While he dismissed her as merely his pregnant wife, she had been methodically downloading company records, board meeting minutes, and emails that revealed a pattern of misrepresented earnings and diverted investor. There's more, she continued. Rebecca's PR firm received nearly $2 million in consulting fees last year, far above market rate for the services provided. I suspect some of that money went toward gifts, their hotel meetings, perhaps even property I haven't discovered. Yet, Julian whistled softly. Securities fraud, misappropriation of company funds, the SEC would be very interested. I'm not looking to destroy him, Olivia clarified, just to ensure my child and I are protected. And Rebecca? Olivia's expression hardened. She's collateral damage. Over the following weeks, Olivia maintained a careful facade. She attended prenatal appointments, sometimes allowing Thomas to accompany her. She responded neutrally to Rebecca's increasingly desperate attempts at reconciliation. To the outside world, she appeared to be a wife, considering forgiveness. Behind this mask, however, she worked tirelessly. She documented every suspicious transaction, photographed the Cartier watch and other gifts Rebecca had suddenly acquired, and recorded conversations where Thomas inadvertently revealed damaging information. "The Hamilton investment is locked in," he told her one evening, loosened by scotch and false security. "Board doesn't need to know all the details of how I secured it. Sometimes it's better for everyone if certain meetings stay off the books." Each night after Thomas fell asleep, Olivia would silently transfer new findings to Julian, who was building both a divorce case and a potential SEC complaint that could be filed if necessary. "You should consider what you want the outcome to be," Julian advised during one of their discreet meetings. "Full exposure could trigger regulatory investigations that might devalue the company significantly." "I'm aware," Olivia replied. "I've owned shares since the beginning. I don't want to destroy Horizon. Just ensure Thomas understands he can't simply buy his way out of this." As her 6th month of pregnancy progressed, Thomas grew increasingly confident that the crisis had passed. He suggested they attend Horizon's annual charity gala together. "A good opportunity to show we're united," he'd said, clearly thinking of his company's image. Olivia agreed readily, already knowing this would be the perfect setting for what she had planned. A week before the gala, Rebecca made a final, desperate attempt, appearing at Olivia's prenatal yoga class. "Please," she begged as Olivia calmly gathered her belongings. "Just talk to me. We've been friends for 15 years. That has to count for something." Olivia regarded her former friend with cool detachment. "It counted for nothing when you were sleeping with my husband." "It's over between us," Rebecca insisted, tears streaming down her face. "I ended it after you found out. I was stupid and selfish, but I want to make amends." "I appreciate that," Olivia replied evenly. "Perhaps we can talk at the gala. Thomas mentioned you'll be handling the press." Relief washed over Rebecca's face. "Yes, I'll be there. Thank you, Liv. Thank you for giving me a chance." As Rebecca hurried away, Olivia allowed herself a small, private smile. The final pieces were falling perfectly into place. That evening, Julian called with news. "The offshore account has been confirmed. Registered to a shell company jointly owned by Thomas and A.R. Parker. Nearly $3 million transferred over the past year." "Good work," Olivia said. "Send everything to my secure email. I'll need the complete file for the gala." "Are you sure about this approach?" Julian asked, concern evident in his voice. "We could handle this through proper legal channels. Less dramatic, less public." Olivia placed her hand on her growing belly, feeling her child shift within her. "Thomas and Rebecca chose the battleground when they betrayed me," she said quietly. "Now they'll face the consequences in the same public arena they've used to build their reputations." As she ended the call, Olivia felt the baby kick, stronger than ever before. She smiled, whispering to her unborn child, "Don't worry, little one. Mommy's just making sure we'll be okay on our own." 3 days before the gala, she confirmed her final arrangements with Julian and selected her outfit, a stunning maternity gown in deep emerald that highlighted both her pregnancy and her quiet determination. The countdown had begun. The unveiling. The Horizon Technologies annual charity gala transformed the city's Natural History Museum into a gleaming showcase of wealth and influence. Under the towering dinosaur skeleton in the main hall, the elite of the business world mingled with politicians and celebrities, all drawn by Thomas Blackwood's rising star and generous charitable contributions. Olivia arrived fashionably late, ensuring Thomas had already begun working the room. Her emerald gown drew appreciative glances as she moved through the crowd, her 6-month baby bump accentuated, rather than concealed by the designer silk. She had chosen her accessories carefully. Simple diamond earrings Thomas had given her when Horizon secured its first major investor, and a thin gold bracelet bearing a single charm, a miniature USB drive disguised as an ornament. "You look, stunning," Julian murmured, appearing at her side with a glass of sparkling water. Unlike their secretive cafe meetings, tonight he was officially her escort. A supportive friend helping the pregnant Mrs. Blackwood navigate the event while her husband performed his CEO duties. "Is everything ready?" she asked quietly, accepting the drink. Julian nodded. "Tech team confirmed access to the presentation system. Switch will happen during the transition to the donation announcement." Across the room, Thomas held court with a group of investors, his charisma on full display. He caught Olivia's eye and raised his glass slightly, his smile confident. He believed tonight was about rehabilitation, showing the world that Thomas Blackwood was both a business genius and a devoted family man preparing for fatherhood. "Mrs. Blackwood," Harold Winters, Horizon's oldest board member, approached with a warm smile. "You're glowing. How much longer until we welcome the newest?" "Blackwood?" "About 3 months," Olivia replied, returning his smile. Harold had always been kind to her, even as other board members dismissed her as merely the CEO's wife. "I'm looking forward to the new chapter." "As you should be," Harold said, lowering his voice. "Between us, the board is impressed with how you've handled recent tensions. Many women would have created public drama. Your discretion speaks to your character." Olivia maintained her pleasant expression while inwardly confirming her suspicions. The board knew about the affair. Of course they did. In their world, indiscretions were tolerated as long as they remained private. "The company's reputation is important to me too, Harold," she said truthfully. At 9 o'clock, Thomas took the stage to thunderous applause. His keynote speech highlighted Horizon's remarkable growth, their commitment to ethical technology development, and their expanded charitable initiatives. "Tonight," he announced, his voice resonating through the hall, "Horizon Technologies is proud to announce a $10 million donation to children's education programs across the country." More applause. "But before we detail this initiative, I'd like to acknowledge someone special." Thomas gestured toward Olivia, and a spotlight found her in the crowd. "My wife, Olivia, whose support has been the foundation of everything we've built at Horizon. Soon to be the mother of our first child, she exemplifies the values of family that drive our company's mission." The audience awed appropriately. Cameras flashed. Rebecca, standing near the stage, managed a tight smile. "And now," Thomas continued, "I'd like to share a brief presentation about the impact of our charitable work over the past year." The lights dimmed. The massive screen behind Thomas illuminated with the Horizon logo. And then, as planned, the presentation switched. Instead of heartwarming photos of children benefiting from Horizon's generosity, financial spreadsheets appeared. Account numbers, transfer records, emails between Thomas and Rebecca discussing not just their affair, but the movement of company funds to their private offshore account. Thomas froze mid-sentence, staring at the screen in horror. The audience murmured in confusion as more documents appeared. Board meeting minutes with sections Thomas had falsified, side-by-side comparisons of reported earnings versus actual. numbers, and finally, photos of Thomas and Rebecca entering the Archer Hotel on multiple dates over the past year. "What is this?" Thomas hissed, frantically signaling to the tech team. But Julian had ensured the system was locked. Only Olivia's remote could stop the presentation now. Olivia stepped forward into the spotlight that still followed her. "I believe," she said, her voice clear and steady, "these are the values that truly drive Horizon's operations, Thomas." The room fell silent as she approached the stage, each step deliberate. "While my husband has been speaking about ethical technology and family values, he's been diverting investor funds to support his affair with my former best friend and her PR firm." She gestured to Rebecca, who had gone deathly pale. "The offshore account they established has received nearly $3 million of company money in the past year alone." Board members were now on their feet. Journalists frantically took notes. Thomas's face contorted with rage and panic. "Olivia," he growled, moving toward her, "you have no idea what you're doing." "Actually," she replied calmly, "I know exactly what I'm doing. The SEC received these documents 30 minutes ago. So did the district attorney's office." Harold Winters stepped forward, his earlier warmth replaced by cold fury. "Is this accurate, Thomas?" Before Thomas could respond, Rebecca broke, her professional composure shattering. "He said it was all legitimate," she cried out. "Consulting, fees, performance bonuses. He handled all the paperwork." Thomas rounded on her. "Shut up, don't say another word." But the damage was done. Board members huddled urgently while security personnel moved toward Thomas. The carefully orchestrated event had descended into chaos. Olivia remained composed, addressing the stunned audience. "I apologize for disrupting this evening. The charitable donation is genuine. I've personally confirmed the funds were transferred last week. The children who benefit from these programs shouldn't suffer because of my husband's actions." This strategic clarification worked exactly as intended. It positioned Olivia as reasonable and ethical, concerned with the charity's mission even, while exposing corruption. Julian appeared at her side, guiding her away from the stage as Thomas was surrounded by board members and legal counsel. Rebecca stood alone, abandoned by both her lover and the crowd of business associates who had once courted her PR expertise. "Police will be here soon," Julian murmured. "Are you all right?" Olivia watched as Thomas's carefully constructed world crumbled around him. The man who had betrayed her, who had gambled their future on the assumption she was too naive to fight back, now faced the consequences of his actions. "I'm better than all right," she replied softly. "I'm free." As they reached the exit, Olivia felt her baby kick vigorously, as if in agreement. Outside, away from the chaos, she took her first deep breath in months. The night air was cool against her skin, carrying the promise of a new beginning, one she would forge on her own terms, with her child protected from the shadows of betrayal. Behind her, Thomas's voice rose in desperate denial. But Olivia didn't look back. Her focus had already shifted to what lay ahead, not what she was leaving behind. Reclaiming her future. 6 months after the gala that had sent shockwaves through the business world, Olivia sat in the sunlit nursery of her new home, gently rocking her daughter, Eleanor Grace Mercer. She had reverted to her maiden name, shedding the Blackwood identity along with the shattered remnants of her former life. The modest but charming house in a quiet suburb was nothing like the penthouse she had shared with Thomas, but its walls held something the luxury apartment never had: genuine peace. The nursery walls, still painted in the mint green she had originally chosen, now featured hand-painted butterflies that Julian had spent a weekend carefully creating, each one unique and delicate. "Court documents arrived," Julian said softly from the doorway, careful not to disturb the sleeping infant. "Final dissolution of Horizon Technologies. Assets distribution plan approved." Olivia nodded, continuing the gentle rocking motion that kept Eleanor content. The aftermath of her revelation had been both swift and far-reaching. Thomas had been removed as CEO within days, then arrested on multiple fraud charges. The company had entered emergency restructuring, its stock plummeting before stabilizing under new leadership. Rebecca's PR firm had collapsed, her reputation in tatters after both her professional and personal ethics were called into question. Harold called again, Julian continued, settling into the window seat across from Olivia's rocking chair. The board's offer still stands. They want you as financial compliance officer for the restructured company. The irony wasn't lost on Olivia. The same board members who had once viewed her as merely Blackwood's wife now recognized her financial acumen and integrity as valuable assets. "I'm still not ready," she replied. "Eleanor needs stability right now, and I need time." Julian nodded, understanding evident in his expression. Over the months since the gala, their relationship had evolved from attorney-client to friendship, and recently to something with potential for more. Unlike Thomas's commanding presence, Julian's quiet strength complemented Olivia's independence, rather than attempting to overshadow it. "The hearing is next week," he reminded her gently. "Thomas's plea deal includes the full financial settlement we requested. You won't have to see him." Olivia looked down at her daughter's peaceful face. Eleanor had her mother's eyes, but ironically Thomas's determined chin. "Has he asked about her again?" "His attorney inquired about visitation possibilities. I reminded them of the conditions we discussed. The conditions were non-negotiable. Thomas would have no contact with Eleanor until she was old enough to understand the circumstances and decide for herself. The substantial trust fund he had been ordered to establish would support her education and future, but money couldn't buy access to his daughter's life." "And Rebecca?" Olivia asked, though she already knew the answer. Her former friend had left the city shortly after the scandal broke, reportedly relocating overseas to escape the fallout. "Nothing new," Julian confirmed. "Last I heard, she was in Barcelona, trying to rebuild her career under a different name." Olivia nodded, unsurprised. Rebecca had always been adaptable, if nothing else. A gentle knock at the front door interrupted their conversation. Julian rose to answer it, returning moments later with a puzzled expression and a small package. "Special delivery," he said, placing the box on the side table. "Required signature verification." Curious, Olivia carefully transferred Eleanor to her crib before opening the unexpected delivery. Inside was a vintage silver rattle, obviously expensive, and a handwritten note. For Eleanor. Not asking forgiveness, just acknowledging what matters. T. Olivia stared at the gift, conflicting, emotions washing over her. This small gesture of accountability was more than Thomas had shown throughout their marriage or its dissolution. "What will you do with it?" Julian asked. Olivia carefully placed the rattle in a drawer. "Save it for when she's older. Some parts of her history shouldn't be erased, even the complicated ones." As evening approached, they moved to the back porch, where Olivia had established a small container garden. Unlike the professionally landscaped terrace of her former home, this garden bore the marks of her own hands, sometimes imperfect, but genuinely hers. Julian nodded encouragingly. "You've always had a gift for finance. It would be a shame not to use it." "I've also been considering another opportunity," she continued, picking up a business proposal she'd